All right. Clap it up, clap it up. Today is Monday, which is today is One West News Desk presented to you by Captain Saparia, and I am Officer Mathum Shikalia. I'm standing in for Captain Saparia, so I'm gonna hold it down for him today. We got a lot to get into today. We're starting a little bit late, but let's get into it, man. I know everybody and I heard about TD Jakes. You understand TD Jakes has handed his authority over to his daughter and to his son-in-law. You understand? And that's just like Christianity. You understand? When somebody falls into, you understand, iniquity, they are never, you understand, reprimanded. You understand? You know, we all know TD Jakes had a little episode, on why he was preaching one day, and everybody forgot about all of the things that had happened prior to that. You understand? So now he has handed the leadership over to his daughter and his son-in-law. Let's get into this article, right? Because this is crazy. You understand? And it's not like he's still not, that money is still not going into his coffers. Remember, TD Jakes got a mega church. TD Jakes is pulling in millions of dollars a year. Millions. You understand? And he's trying to step down or act like he's stepping down so that he can continue to collect those millions. You understand? Let's read into this situation with TD Jakes. It says, and this is from the Dallas Morning Star, which is in Dallas is where TD Jakes' church is located. You understand? It says Bishop TD Jakes is handing Potter's House leadership to daughter and son-in-law. After the transition, Jake will continue in his role as chairman of the TD Jakes Group. Now, this is a company. The TD Jakes Group, a company. This is no longer a church, and it has never really been a church. It's all about money. It's all about how much he can fill his coffers, how much he can take, how much money of the people he can take. You understand? TD Jakes is just out here taking and taking and taking. And no matter what happened to these Christians, they are never reprimanded for what they have done. You understand? It says, which includes his real estate company, Social Impact Holding Company, and TD Jakes Foundation. Man, this brother is really getting paid. You understand? They got all kinds of companies and foundations connected with the Potter House Church. And that's just like the Catholic Church. You understand? They got all kinds of things connected. So they can pull in money from all directions. And remember that the church is not taxed. You understand? The church is not taxed. So all of that money comes in is their money. And they create all kinds of groups and things like that, all kinds of foundations in their name. And you send in all of this money believing that you helping poor people, you helping the less fortunate. You only filling the pockets of the wolves, the ravenous wolves. People believe in taking advantage of the people. You understand? They believe in taking advantage of the people. I mean, if you really step back and look at what the Christian church has done for us thus far, come all the way from the 60s, all the way up to 2025, they have collected trillions of dollars. And look at our community. Who does the Christian church serve? The Christian church serves the oppressor. You understand? The Christian church does nothing but serve the oppressor. I haven't seen anything out of all of the churches in my community. I have seen the church do nothing for the community. What does it really mean to give out a couple of turkeys a year? What does it mean to really, when you collecting trillions, what's 400 turkeys once a year? What's a couple of book bags with some school supplies in it once a year? What is that? That's just a drop in the bucket. And they can do one thing for a neighborhood, and that's the only thing that we'll remember them for. We will never remember them for the negative. We will never remember them for counseling. When has a Christian church ever counseled anybody in the neighborhood? And it doesn't have anything to do with their church specifically. When has the church ever done anything for the neighborhoods that they sit in? When they do come out and canvass the neighborhood, it's so that they can get more people into their church so that they can collect more money. The church is nothing but a big pyramid scheme. And TD Jakes is an example of it. TD Jakes, Creflo Dollar, what's his name? Eddie Long. Who's running Eddie Long's church right now? And that's Jamal Bryant. The Christian church is nothing but a pyramid scheme. They got all kinds of foundations and impact holding companies and all of this stuff connected to the church. When have these things ever been connected to the church? That goes to show you that the church is nothing but a business. The Christian church of today is nothing but a business. It's about how much money you can collect. The more money you collect, the more evil you can get away with. That's how the Christian church works. The more money that you can bring into the coffers to feed into our oppressive system, the more evil you get to do. The more evil you get to do. TD Jakes is passing his church down to his daughter, but he's not leaving the church. He still remains in his chairman role. That means he still gets to point the finger. He still gets to direct. He still gets to command. He's still in control of that church. Out of all of the evil, let's read some more. It says Bishop TD Jakes, who founded the Potter's House and has led the Dallas megachurch for almost 30 years, announced at a Sunday morning service that he will be handing leadership of the church over to his daughter, Sarah Jakes. Listen, that's evil in itself. He's putting a woman in command of the church. The Bible tells us that a woman is not to lead a church. The woman is not supposed to be running the church. That's number one. Not to mention all the evil that's going on within that church. Evil has begotten evil in this church. This is a straight example of the Christian church. All the millions of dollars they collect every year. What have they really done for a community? They give you just enough to listen, it's the same thing that the oppressor does to us. They give you just enough to have you to keep you, to sustain you, but not to fulfill you, not to build you up. This is the Christian church. The Christian church does just enough to have you hold on. They give you all of the what do they call it? They give you all of the motivational speeches because that's all they do. Listen, in the Christian church, that's all they do is motivate you. Christian church, the TD Jakes, every time he speaks, the only thing he's doing is motivating you. But think about this, right? Think about this. If you woke up that morning and you went into church looking for something specifically, you were already motivated. So you don't need to be motivated. You were motivated enough to come. That motivation that you used to come, he's supposed to be feeding you with truth, whether good or bad. He's supposed to be feeding you the truth, whether it makes you feel good or it makes you feel bad. But they motivate you in such a way that you empty your pockets into their coffers. Now he has handed his church over to his daughter and his son-in-law. Just like it says he's still in the leadership. He's still in control. He's still chairman of the board. He's still running the boat. Nothing has changed with the Christian church. It says, as I enter my 50th year in the public spotlight. That's what they look at it as the public spotlight. You understand? Not as a server of the Most High, not as a servant of the Most High, but as he's been in the public spotlight as a star. You understand? As a giant in the industry. That's all it is. It's the spotlight is what they look for. He ain't looking for bringing in souls. He's looking for money and the spotlight. It's the same thing with any of our leaders, all of our leaders today. That's the only thing that they look for. They look for money and they look for the spotlight. This is why we're easily controlled as a people. As a nation of people, we are the easiest nation to control, because they know that our leaders only look to fill their pockets and to look to be at the front in the spotlight. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Not to bring us out of the condition that we're in. Not to help and build communities. Think about this, right? Ask yourself, where at on this earth has the Christian church came in and built a community that was dilapidated, whatever, however you say it? When has the Christian church ever came in and done that? They won't do it, because it's not about building communities. It's about building themselves. It's about them being in the spotlight, being a public figure. You understand? Being a giant in the industry. This is what the Bible talks about when it talks about the giants in the earth. You know, living amongst the stars. This is what it's talking about. And that's what us as Israel, that's what we look for. That's what destroys us. Just what he's talking about right here, being in the public spotlight. Listen to this. I recognize the urgent need to address more challenges of our time. Think about that. What challenges have T.D. Jakes addressed of our time? Name one challenge that he has addressed. Name a challenge. They don't address challenges. They don't do anything like that. Nothing of the sort. They are only to build themselves, to make a reputation for themselves, not to build a legacy in the community by building a community like Peter did in Acts, like the apostles did in Acts. You understand? Coming together on one accord, building the people, helping the people as they need. Christian church has destroyed us. So much so that we continue to believe in the Christian church. We believe that there is some good within the Christian church. But there can be no good within the Christian church when the Christian church follows the blueprint of our oppressor. Most of these churches, they move into communities that don't really need help. That way they don't have people straggling in off the street, begging for help, looking for help, asking for help. Notice a lot of those great, bigger, mega churches don't live in any communities that need the most help. They move out into communities, out into suburbs that don't need any help. They move into places where they know people gonna come to that church and fill that church and build that church out of their own pockets. So that pastor can ride around in a Bentley, in a Mercedes, you understand, dressing in $10,000 suits. We fall for the same thing. We keep falling for it, you know. Look at it. It says, I recognize the urgent need to address more challenges of our time, particularly the looming threat of a disappearing middle class. Wow. They worried about a middle class, a disappearing middle class. I'm not saying not to worry about the middle class, but what about the poor? I thought the church was about the poor. Because if the middle class is disappearing, where are they going? They're going into the poor. Listen, to make $100,000 is nothing now. What is middle class? 200 and 250,000 and above is middle class. $150,000 is really that's a standard living life right there. That's a standard living life. 100,000 and below, that's poor. You can make $100,000 a year and live paycheck to paycheck. That's the truth. I remember $100,000. Listen, $100,000 back in the early 90s could take care of a whole family. One person working making $100,000, no more. No more. Imagine $100,000 in the 80s. You living out in the suburbs somewhere, getting a house built from the ground up. That's no more. That's no more. I remember when 50, 60, and $70,000 was rich. That's poverty now. With an income like that, you need two people making that. Listen, he worried about the middle class. Listen, I'm going to start back over. It says, particularly the looming threat of a disappearing middle class, social unrest, and closing opportunity gaps. What opportunity gaps have the Christian church ever closed? Think about it, right? What opportunity gaps have T.D. Jakes' church closed? What opportunity gaps? Everybody has the job drives at their church. Everybody does that. That's not closing the gap, especially when people can't make the money to sustain themselves or their families. You got to work two jobs just to make ends meet. What opportunity gap have the Christian church ever closed? Somebody explain that one to me. Jake said in a new news release. He said that in a news release prepared before Sunday service, elevating Pastor Tor and Pastor Sarah as the new senior pastors of the Potter's House. We will honor our rich history, their rich history, while embracing a future that demands innovative ministry from the coming age. Listen, the ministry does not have to be innovated. All you have to listen, every other thing has to be innovated. You have to be innovative with every other thing, but the truth only has to be spoken. There's no innovation in the truth. All you have to do is tell the truth. Their appointment will occur later this year. After the transition, Jakes will continue in his role as chairman of the TD Jakes Group, which includes his real estate company. Look, he got a real estate company, Social Impact Holding Company, and the TD Jakes Foundation. At the end of his message, Jake raised his voice as piano and organ chords punctuated his words. And see, that's the thing too, right? They use all of that as ambiance to get you into the mood, get you into the mode, get you forgetting about what Christian churches really do, and get you to imagine what they will do. And it's just that. It's an imagination of what they really will do. All of these years, all of these decades, and the Christian church has never built a single community for the people. I don't see any Christian church names on any neighborhoods, on any apartment buildings, on any social service buildings. Think about it, right? It takes nothing to help people to expand their communities when you're bringing in millions of dollars a year. Says at the end of the message, Jake raised his voice as piano and organ chords punctuated his words. Audience members cheered. This must be the rich people he's catering to. Clap and dance. And that's the Christian church. All they know how to do is clap and dance. That's it. A few dozen gathered in front of the stage with raised hands and bowed heads. Man, this is a real show. Jake quieted the room as he began discussing the transition. He said he'd been planning for at least 6 years. Yeah, all right, whatever. I have seen too many men build something and stay so long that they will kill what they built. Listen, if it wasn't for that episode or them stories coming out about him and Diddy, he'd still be there in control, in the front, in the limelight right now. The pastor said, I cannot afford, especially after November, to risk something happening to me and you be sheep without a shepherd. We've been a sheep without a shepherd up to this point. You understand? That's you're a shepherd, a wolf in shepherd's clothing. There's something I want to do in the community before I get too old to do it. He said, I wanted to introduce to you your pastors, Jake said as he ended his announcement. His daughter and son-in-law walked toward the center of the stage where Jake embraced them. I know the crown is heavy, Jake said to them as the audience applauded. But I also know that if God is for you, who can be against you? Boy, he be getting them. He be getting. Man, this Christian church is an evil place. An evil place. You understand? I want to drop that article. Christian church tearing people apart. And we just sitting around looking at it, believing that this Christian church is really going to help us. Christian church is out to destroy, especially the black community. because we believe in everything in Christianity. We believe Christianity is going to pull us right out of our hole. Wait a minute, where is that one? Christianity totally destroyed us. And this next article, boy, this next article, I know if you believe America is a land of equality, is the home of the free, or the land of the free and the home of the brave, this next article, if you don't wake up from that slumber with this next article, there's no helping you. You understand? There's no helping you. Listen to this, right? The Smithsonian begins removing exhibits, artifacts from African American History Museum. Commanding General Yohanna said that was going to happen a long time ago. We believe too much in the small trinkets that they give us. Every year they give us something new. You understand? Even with, think about the things that they give us, right? Even with Black History Month. Give you Black History Month, celebrate Black History Month with the shortest month of the year. Not only is the shortest month of the year, but you know, us as Black people, we like to celebrate. We like to have, you know, barbecues, be out, you know, in the beautiful weather and things like that. They give you the shortest month of the year in the middle of the winter. In the middle of the winter. You understand? And then not only that, they control who we reverence in Black History Month. And if you notice, whenever they give you people to reverence in Black History Month, it's always somebody who furthered our oppressors' agenda. Look at Martin Luther King. They built a statue to him because he furthered the oppressor's agenda. You understand? And they understand that we have weak leadership. And weak leadership is our weakness. We believe that our leadership is building us when our leadership is only building themselves. Martin Luther King and that Big Six, they built themselves. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's getting upset because now they're removing stuff from the Smithsonian. What they call it, the Black Museum in Washington. You understand? All of the things that really speaks Black history. Think about what they're doing, right? They're removing the history of the Tuskegee Airmen. No more of that. You understand? They removing that. Let me change this. There we go. They removing that. Tuskegee Airmen. They're removing a lot of other things. A lot of other things are going to be removed. You understand? Even the things that they did to us in slavery, all of that stuff is going to be removed. So much so that by the time your children and your grandchildren get older, the things that happened to us in slavery, they will never know. They will never know existed. And think about this, right? Most Black people are Democrats, right? What did the Democrats say about it? What are the Democrats saying about it? Democrats saying nothing about it. Why? Because this is two birds, two wings of the same bird. They flying in the same direction. You understand? Even though they go at each other, evil will not cast out evil. A house divided against itself cannot stand. This house has never been divided. They find different ways to get to the same point. That's what they do. They go at each other, finding different ways to go at the same point, but they are not divided. What's going on, Alazar? What's going on, Adolphus Lass? Right? Shalom, Lord Christ. Oh, you know what? Shalom, Lord Christ. You know, Shalom, Yahweh Shem Al-Shah Barakatah to the brothers, Yahweh Shema Thumb by Shem Al-Shah to the sisters. Forgot to hit that today. I'm sorry. Salakia, Salakia. What's going on, brothers and sisters? You understand? That Smithsonian, them removing Black history, Commanding General Yohana said that a while ago. He said that was going to happen a long time ago. We getting so heated about things that we already knew was coming. This is why it's important for brothers and sisters to get into this ISUPK, to get some understanding, to get some truth, to get some real history, to know who we really are. All the other nations know exactly who we are. And all it takes is a stroke of the pen and they can erase our history. And if you don't know our history, you will never know at that stroke of that pen. Look at what's going on now. Now people running around like a chicken with their heads cut off. Why? Because you could have been in this truth, could have been learning about who you really were or who we really are. You understand? But instead, our brothers and sisters would rather sit in Christianity. You know, we rather sit in Christianity. We rather soak up the lies. This truth is right here. And what we need to do is we need to get into class and we need to get some understanding about ourselves. You understand? We need to put this understanding into our children, into our grandchildren, so that these truths will never fade from the earth again. In 1969, the Most High brought this truth back into the earth. Now it's up to us to keep this truth into the earth, because now we see what's really going on. We see them right now. We living in, this is living history right now. We watching these people whitewash history as we speak. We always talk about in the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages how they whitewashed, and then they came into the Renaissance and how they whitewashed history. Well, we're watching the Renaissance happen again. We're watching our oppressor erase history, whitewash history all over again. 50 years from now, we're going to be talking about it just like we talk about the Renaissance. How they erased our history. How we had to collect books. We had to put books away and hide our history, write our history back down again, write the things that were happening right now all over again. Everything that's happening right now is history in the making. Watching the oppressor just take his eraser and wipe the chalkboard clean. Tuskegee Airmen straight out. The sisters who were the first human computers, wipe that right out. Anything dealing with us, with Black people, and the creativeness of Black people going to be wiped right out. I saw an old video that was out way back in the 80s when brothers and sisters started break dancing and doing all that type of stuff and rapping and stuff like that. It was an old commercial with white people, our oppressor, trying to teach us how to rap and how to break dance and things like that. How is that? Before you know it, they gonna have the history of breakdancers gonna be them. They're gonna tell the stories of how they created it, just like they do everything else that we do. They're gonna take that just like we do, just like they do everything else. We ain't gonna have nothing after that. What's gonna be after that? What is it gonna be after that? We gonna have no history. We just gonna be tag-alongs. That's it. A tag-along people. Oh, we just brought them along. They had no history. They didn't have anything else. So we figured we let them, tag along with us. Troglodytes. Cave Bobs and Cave Beckys. We following Cave Bobs and Cave Beckys. We just destroy people. Listen to this. Some artifacts and exhibits are being removed from the National Museum of African American History and Culture. It comes a month after President Trump's executive order to remove what he calls improper ideology. Now, listen to this. Improper ideology. Restoring truth and sanity to American history by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Over the past decade, Americans have witnessed a concerted and widespread effort to rewrite our nation's history. Ain't that a bit? Ain't that something? Listen, they saying that critical race theory. First, let's think about what critical race theory is. What is critical race theory? Somebody tell me, what do you think critical race theory is? What is critical race theory? Can somebody tell me that? What's critical race theory? And it's simple. Critical race theory shouldn't even be called critical race theory. It should be history. But somebody tell me, what's critical race theory? I'm going to give 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Just somebody tell me what critical race theory is. Even if you don't know, just take a guess. What is critical race theory? I want to know what that is. Critical race theory. Simple. Fifteen seconds. A way of thinking, Adolphus? A way of thinking? No. Not a way of thinking. What's critical race theory? It's Adolphus. It's simpler than that. It's simpler than that. It's not a way of thinking. Give me one more. 10 seconds. Give me something else. Don't think listen. Don't think it's not even a trick question. Something simple. What's critical race theory? I think I said it. I said it. All right, check this out. Listen to this. Critical race theory is real history. Simple as that. To analyze, not to analyze, but think about it, Adolphus. Critical race theory is just real history. Think about what we've been told in school. Think about what we've been told about Thanksgiving in school, right? We was told in Thanksgiving in school that the Native American Indians, when the Pilgrims came over looking for a better life, that the Native Americans helped them get through the first winter. So they had a big celebration to celebrate them getting through that first winter. And that was Thanksgiving, right? That's what we were told, right? But that's the furthest thing from the truth. Real history is that after they got through that first winter, they realized that they could take this land and get through and destroy the Native American Indians. So every time that they would destroy one of the Native American Indian tribes, they would have a day called Thanksgiving. And every time they destroyed another tribe, they called it Thanksgiving. So much so that they were having Thanksgiving 3 or 4 times a week. They had to cut it, and it was Abraham Lincoln who cut it to once a month. And then eventually he changed it to once a year. That's real history, but they call it critical race theory. And that's the thing that they don't want their children to find out. Think about this. They had something called the Pamunkey Peace Talks, and it was in the mid-1600s. And at the Pamunkey Peace Talks, they had a big celebration. They invited a Native American tribe. They poisoned the wine. The Native Americans who didn't drink the wine, they bludgeoned them to death, and they celebrated Thanksgiving. Critical race theory is real history. It's the history that they don't want us to know about. Just like our real identity, us being the true biblical Jews of the Bible. And think about this, right? Critical race theory. We are the true biblical Jews of the Bible. History, as they tell it, you are Muslims. You are Buddhist. You are African. You are Egyptian. Listen, nobody gets upset when we claim any of those things. They're history. But as soon as you complain, or as soon as you say, hey, we are the real Jews, think about what Nick Cannon did, right? Think about what's his name, Kanye West, right? Think about what's the brother that plays the basketball? What's his name? What's the brother that played basketball that showed the website where he had the book at, where they had the book from Negro Hebrews to Negroes. Remember that, right? Real history they don't want you to know about, so they call it critical race theory, and it can't be brought into the schools. We can't subject our children to that. Why? Because if your children find out who they really are, it's going to turn this earth upside down. If your children find out they're sitting right next to the real biblical Jews of the Bible, what would they do? Would they begin to respect those people? We can't have that. Critical race theory, can't have it in our schools. Listen, this whitewashing that they're doing right now, erasing all history or important history of so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Natives, is what has always been done. Think about this too, right? Think about this too. Shalom, sis. What is that? Thakaya. Princess Thakaya. Shalom, sis. Gabari Karib. Okay. Think about this, right? Think about this. Everything that's happening right now, just like you said, everything right now is real history that they're erasing. If we find out who we really are, think about the brothers and sisters that really believe that they're Christian. Think about the brothers and sisters that really believe they're African American. You understand? Think about the brothers and sisters that believe they're Egyptians, Africans, Buddhists, Muslims, especially the Muslims. Think about if all of those people find out that they are the true biblical Jews of the Bible, how much respect would that command? Then, not only that, how would they look at the people who claim they are Jews but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan? How would that look? How would that look? That would turn this earth upside down. Listen, I understand we worried about what they taking out of museums. We worried about them, covering up things in military cemeteries. You understand? But if we take the knowledge that we have right now and pass it down from generation to generation, what does the Bible tell us to do? Ask thy fathers and they will show you. Ask thy, fathers and they will tell us. You understand what I'm saying? We have to hand this information down from generation to generation. We have to stand on what we are and who we are. We have to follow our laws, statutes, and commandments. Yes, it's important, and what they're doing is a travesty, but we have to collect our records. We have to remember our records. We have to write down our records, and we have to pass them down so that they cannot be erased. What's going on, Daryl Lynn? Checking in. I hear that. Sister Rawai. We gotta collect our history. We gotta be the strength, and we gotta be the backbone. We gotta have some understanding of who we are so that we can pass it down. You understand? Or else we're gonna continue to cry about what they're doing instead of combating it in that way. How can somebody see? No matter what they do, no matter how much they erase, they can't erase what's in your mind. They can't erase what you have passed down to your children. Listen, my mother was in the movement in the early 70s. I can remember being on North Avenue and being in a formation, and my mother telling me we can't trust these oppressors. In the 70s, I remember that. How do I remember that? Because my mother instilled it into my brain. Listen, the barracks that we used to stay in, that we used to go to all the time, was right there across the street from that bookstore right there at North Avenue in North in Pennsylvania. It was right across the street from that bookstore. We would be right there standing in formation with the red, black, and the green on. I remember that. Well, just imagine if we pass down who we are to our children from generation to generation. The truth can never be erased. And listen, it's nothing wrong with being concerned about what our oppressor is doing and how they are trying to erase us right out of the history. But now we have to understand that we have to retain our history. Not only that, not only retaining our history, but we have to get some kind of understanding. We have to understand that all of those wars that we fought in, we can't put our children in harm's way again. We have to let our oppressor go out there and fight his own wars. You want to erase our history? Fight your own wars. We have to bring our children up to learn to protect us and not them. All of these years, all the way from the 70s, all the way up to 2025. Matter of fact, I can't even say the 70s because we were in the Civil War. We were in World War I. We were in the Vietnam War. We were in World War II. You understand? We were in the Iraqi war. We were in the Afghan war. You understand? We've been in all the wars America has had. And now look what America's doing to us. Erasing history right out of the African American Museum. All of the house slaves now. All you're going to see in the African American Museum now is the house slaves. You're going to see that Clarence Thomas, that Thurgood Marshall. You're going to see all those Negroes up in there. All those Negroes that's selling us out today, they're going to be in there too. Furthering the oppressor's agenda. We got to be the strength. We got to be the backbone. We got to be the ones that pass it down. You understand? Listen. It says, I'm going to start back at the top. Over the past decade, Americans have witnessed a concerted and widespread effort to rewrite our nation's history, replacing objective facts with a distorted narrative driven by ideology rather than truth. Listen, this is what drives our oppressor. Ideology rather than truth. And this is what they're replacing. They're replacing their ideology with the truth. I mean, they're replacing the truth with their ideology. This revisionist movement seeks to undermine the remarkable achievements of the United States by casting its founding principles and historical milestones in a negative light. Listen, think about this, right? Just like we said before, the Pilgrims came over here. Real history, right? The Pilgrims came over here, but they didn't come over here as pilgrims. They came over here as cast-offs. They came over here as unalivers, essayers. You understand? They were the worst of the worst. This was supposed to be a penal colony, just like Australia was, and they destroyed all the Aborigines in Australia. This was supposed to be a penal colony for the worst of the worst. But look what it has become. Think about this. When you bring all the worst of the worst together and then they begin to integrate with each other, all of a sudden you come up with a murderous nation. America says they're so afraid, you understand, that China or Russia is going to attack them. So we have to protect ourselves. America is the only nation with over 800 military bases all over the globe. No other nation has even 1/4 of that all over the globe. And everybody else who has military bases, they have them in their own sectors, not all over the globe. America is the beast of the earth. America is the murderous nation of the earth. Think about, they always talk about how Iran may, if they get a nuclear bomb, they may drop a nuclear bomb. Russia may do it. China may do it. But America is the only nation on the face of this planet who has ever dropped a nuclear bomb on anybody. And think about this. Think about this, right? After World War I, Winston Churchill wanted to do the same thing to Stalin, to Russia. They wanted to do the same thing to Russia. These are an evil people. This is a beast of a people. A murderous nation. Let's see here. This revisionist movement seeks to undermine the remarkable achievements of the United States by casting its founding principles and historical milestones in a negative light. Under this historical revision, our nation's unparalleled legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness is reconstructed as an inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, or otherwise irredeemably flawed. That's America in a nutshell. Think about it, right? They just said this nation has an unparalleled legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness. Is reconstructed as an inherently racist. America has always been inherently racist. That's real history. That's critical race theory right there. That's real history. To be inherently racist. Everybody knows that's America. America is sexist. That's America. That's critical race theory. That's real history. Think about it. Oppressive. Who knows more about oppressive or being oppressed than the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives? Think about this, right? Oppressive and oppressive. Native American Indians are in concentration camps right now. They call them reservations. They call them reservations. That's a concentration camp. Over 2 million brothers in prison right now in America. America has the highest incarceration rate on the globe. And think about this. China has over 1 billion people. Oh, wait a minute. India has 1.4 billion people, and America quadruples India's incarceration rate. And it could be more than that. 1 billion people, almost 1.5 billion people. If I'm not mistaken, America has 600, 700 million people. 700 million. India has 1.4 billion. And America quadruples India's incarceration rate. Thing is it's not even Americans that are incarcerated in America at a high rate, but it's so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives. Think about this, right? They have brothers right on the border in cages, children in cages on the border. If that's not oppressive, what is that? Somebody tell me, what is oppression? What is oppressive? If that's not oppressive, what is oppressive? Listen. It says, or otherwise irredeemably flawed. America's flawed from top to bottom. Whether it's the oligarchs taking the government straight to hell, or whether, it's Karens on the street getting their brains knocked out because they want to jump in the wrong people's faces. This nation is irredeemably flawed. We look at America, because we've been blinded so long, we look at America like America is the greatest nation on the face of the planet. And let's face it, right? No people on this planet respects us, right? No people on this planet respects us. We are the only nation of people who don't have a nation. Because we don't know who we are. Native Americans really aren't Native American. Mexicans aren't really Mexican. African Americans aren't really African American. We the only people on the face of this earth who don't know who we are. Think about this. Africans don't even call themselves Africans. They call themselves by the nation that they're from and who they derive from, where their parents are from. That's what they call themselves. Even the so-called Greeks, Italians, all of them call themselves where they're from. We are the only ones who call ourselves what the oppressor calls us. Think about it, right? I'm going to drop that and I'm going to hit this last article right here. Where is it at? Oh, yeah, right here we go. Think about this, right? I want y'all to think about this next article, right? It says this is the attack that happened in Kashmir last week, right? 26 people were unalived in Kashmir. Kashmir is a small country over there in India. Okay, it's a small country over there in India. You have India, you have Bangladesh, you have Kashmir, and then you have Pakistan, right? India, like I said, India has 1.4 million people over there. Matter of fact, think about this, right? Commanding General Yohanna did an interview with what's the guy name? He did an interview with him, I believe, last year. Baba TV. He did an interview with Baba TV, and he talked about this last year. He said Pakistan and India are going to get into a nuclear war. He said before the nuclear war starts, he said there's going to be it's going to be a clashing of heads, which is going to start in Kashmir. He said that last year. Well, what he said, what Commanding General Yohanna said last year just happened the other day in Kashmir. 26 people were unalived in Kashmir, and a lot of other people got hurt, right? Not only that, the buffer zone between Pakistan and India, the soldiers that guard that buffer zone had a shootout after the attack. Pakistan and India are about to go to war. Commanding General Yohanna called it last year, and just what he said was going to happen happened the other day. You understand? I'm going to read this article. It says, after deadly Kashmir attack, India reports exchange of fire with Pakistani soldiers. Mumbai, India, a day after the United Nations appeal for maximum restraint between Pakistan and India, the Indian military reported an exchange of fire with Pakistani soldiers on Friday across the de facto border of the disputed region of Kashmir. So Kashmir is between India and Pakistan. But if I'm not mistaken, Kashmir is one of the provinces of India. And there was a shooting there that unalived 26 people. Now, the history of India was a single country, right? India was a single country until it got destabilized by the UK back in 1947, somewhere around that era right after World War II, right? It broke off, and India became almost like a Western nation, and Pakistan was in opposition with them, meaning you have the United Nations, you have the United States, you have the UK, you have France, Great Britain, Italy, and all of those countries on one side, and then you have Pakistan on the other side by itself, probably, in league with Germany and any other those like Japan and places like that. They got destabilized by the UK because they were such a big country. America and all of the Western countries are intimidated by countries that are bigger than them, that have more people than them. You understand? Because they understand the more people, the more power. You understand? So America tends to destabilize countries in this way, just as the UK did right here in 1947. This is what happened right here. You understand? And this is the result. What's happening right now is the result. Now, what you have to put in mind, this attack, which Pakistan said they had nothing to do with this attack. We have to understand that. Remember this. Something that's paralyzing America right now is this BRICS movement. And remember, BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And you have a bunch of other countries that have just joined it. But remember, India is in there. And the one thing that America wants to do is to destabilize BRICS, the BRICS movement. Because what America does is America uses these sanctions and everything like that to control countries. Because the leading currency is the American dollar. Where if there's anything else that can rival the American dollar, it can perhaps collapse the American dollar and send America into a tailspin with the rest of the Western nations. Well, if you look at the way everything has happened, of course, Pakistan and India had their differences, but really in a few years, it really hasn't been anything big. But this thing right here could be that thing that could scratch that beast that's about to awake and have a war. Remember, World War III has already begun. You understand? All it's doing is bringing all the other nations in. And now you have another monster that's being awakened in India. You understand? And Pakistan is one not to back down from a fight. So this is something that could interrupt the BRICS movement. You understand? So don't be surprised. And I'm not saying that this is what's true, but don't be surprised if America didn't have something to do with this attack in Kashmir. You understand? Or the Western nations. Don't be surprised, because America and these Western nations will do anything to be number one and to remain on top. But all of these other Western nations that stand with America, they are already weakened. You understand? They're already weakened. You understand? Germany has nothing. You understand? The UK, they have nothing. You understand? Trump wants to really get out of this war with Russia. Russia has totally destroyed Ukraine. It's only a matter of time before Ukraine is going to be totally engulfed by Russia. And there's nothing America can do. So let's read, okay? Tensions between the two nuclear-armed neighbors, and think about it, right? Commanding General Yohanna said this last year, that both of these nations are nuclearly armed and have no problem with using their nukes. If that should happen, that BRICS thing could possibly fall apart. Not that it could fall apart, because Russia and China still have solid economies. You understand? But That could be a true hit, though. That could be a true hit. It says tensions between the two nuclear-armed neighbors have soared after India blamed Pakistan for a militant attack in Indian-controlled Kashmir on Tuesday that killed 26 men. Pakistan has denied involvement in the attack, one of the deadliest on Indian civilians in years. In a briefing Thursday, Stefan Dujarric, the spokesman for the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, told reporters that the UN was appealing to both countries to ensure that the situation and the development we've seen do not deteriorate any further. Friday's brief exchange of gunfire appeared to end without casualties, according to the Indian military and the media. Pakistan Foreign Ministry spokesperson declined to comment on the firing at a press briefing in Islamabad, saying he would defer to the Pakistani military for formal confirmation. Listen, man, it's on and popping. It's on and popping. You understand? This thing that's happening in India, like I said, Commanding General Yohanna said something about it about a year ago on Baba TV. You understand? He said that, like I said, that this is where this thing could happen right here. And the thing that he said could happen just happened. You understand? Right there in Kashmir. 26 people unalived in Kashmir. Now you have India and Pakistan at each other's throats. It's happening. You understand? It's happening. Listen, these nations are going to come together, and there is going to be a big World War III. Listen, World War III is already underway. Already underway. You understand? It's on and popping. It's on and popping. You understand? So we gotta stay in this truth, and we gotta understand who we are. You understand? Our moral compass sits right here in this book. All we got to do is follow these laws, statutes, and commandments and be in this truth. You understand? Or we're going to fall just like the oppressor and all of these other nations. And we're going to remain under them. We already at the bottom. Listen, we can't go any lower than we are right now. Slavery is as low as it gets. It's time for us to rise. It's time for us to have some kind of understanding of who we are. You understand? The truth is back in the earth. All we have to do is accept who we are. You understand? Listen, it says, some Indian analysts warned of the possibility of more serious military action in the coming days. One thing we can say with pretty much absolute certainty is that there will be a military response. And what's this? Sadaharth Vadajaran, founding editor of The Wire and online daily. The victims of Tuesday's attacks, mostly Hindu tourists, were ambushed in a remote alpine meadow. Listen, I would not be surprised. Like I said before, I would not be surprised if this was a tactic of America to tear this BRICS thing down too, or to disrupt this BRICS thing, because India is part of BRICS. So we got to understand, listen, America, the thinking of our oppressor goes deeper than we think. You understand? Listen, the scriptures tell us they lay upon their beds at night, thinking of ways to push us into a pit. Well, they do the same thing with these other nations, especially if it's an other nation who has the up on them. America lays in bed at night, just thinking of ways to destroy these other nations. So it may look like, and I'm not saying that Pakistan didn't do it, but it could be our oppressor, rubbing the bear on both sides. Could be. We know how, listen, We know all too much how our oppressor operates. Think about the 80s dropping all of the drugs into our neighborhood. Listen, I was born in the 60s. I came all the way through the 70s. I remember how Baltimore looked in the 70s, how Baltimore was one of the cleanest cities in the nation at that time. So much so that they called us Charm City. I saw what Ronald Reagan's crack did when they got into our neighborhoods in the early 80s. I remember that. You understand? Our oppressor thinks ahead. Our oppressor will make us believe that the crack epidemic was our fault. Just as he can make India or Pakistan believe that this situation was one or the other's fault. And the oppressor will step back and say, hey, I can help you to resolve this. Act like they're trying to help, but all the while, they're playing each side against each other, just like they do us. And think about this, right? How do you have black people fighting against each other for a blue rag and a red rag? Because our oppressor knows how to play people against themselves. Just like he does us, he does nations the same way. We're witnessing it right now, right in India. We're looking at Pakistan and India. Think about all of the countries. Think about Haiti and the Dominican Republic. How did one island become two? Destabilization. This is what America did. Think about North Korea and South Korea. Two of the same people. How did they become two? Destabilization, thanks to America. You understand the Vietnam War, when you destroy and make a North and a South, this is the way things like that happen. This is the way, listen, we just a petri dish. America does what they do on us and then uses it on the other nations. When America sees that these things work on us, he uses them on the other nations. This is the things that they do to us. And we sit around and we wonder, well, how did we let this happen? How did we let this happen? Because most of us don't recognize who our enemy is. Listen, the Bible tells us, trust not thine enemy. For like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. If you sit long enough and you watch the oppressor, eventually the evilness will show through. Right now, them erasing the history out of the African American Museum is their evilness showing through. This is their evilness showing through. We believe that America is the greatest nation on the face of this earth. America is the wickedest. That's why it's called Babylon. You understand? Sodom. Look at the laws that America is creating right under us, right in our faces, and we're agreeing with it. We're going right along with it. We truly believe it doesn't get any better than this. It doesn't get any better. America, I love America. But if you don't love America, won't you just move out? You understand? That's what the slave says. We don't understand that life is better than this. We should not be living like this. And looking at these articles, look at what America, we stand back and we look at what America's doing to these other nations and don't realize that America has already done that to us. Everything that America is doing to these other nations, they have already done it to us. They just work their magic on us and then turn around and work it on the bigger nation. This is a petri dish. We sitting right in the petri dish. They doing their thing, and all of a sudden, oh shit, it works. Let's do it. Dropping all the drugs into other nations. They already did that to us. Having nations fighting against each other. They already did that to us. Having other nations standing behind them after they do all kinds of wickedness. They already did that to us. We stand on anything America said. That's why we continue to send our children off into the military. Oh, what's the best thing for you? You know, you go into the military, you can get you an education. You can get an education without the military. Without the military. We should never send our children back into America's military ever again. Ever. All these years of fighting for America, and what has it gotten? Listen, we've been blinded. The veil is being pulled from our eyes right now. We've been blinded. Now we're starting to see the true America. We're starting to see America for what she really is, the whore that she really is. You understand? The sodomite that she really is. Listen, everything that America does to us first. These articles, think about it, right? How many times have we said America comes in, drops all kinds of weapons into neighborhoods, then all of a sudden people find these weapons and all of a sudden they start using them on each other? How many times have we heard that happen? That's nothing different than what they doing, than what they did right here in Kashmir. It's no different. Think about the people who did what they did in Kashmir, and then all of a sudden they haven't captured anybody who did it. They haven't captured anybody who did it. How? They on the same island together. Hit and run. They hit and got away. Everybody got away. After all of the firefighting and all of the shooting and everything like that, everybody got away. Like I said, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if they said this was a thing of America, but by the time they find that out, these two countries will have destroyed each other. And then you can go on to the Brookings Institute and see that America had already planned this. You go on to, listen, I got an app on my phone called Brookings Institute, and they got all of the policies of America, right? And you can read every policy and everything that they've written about every nation that they want to destroy. They got the road to Persia, how they want to destroy Iran. They got it all written out, how they want to destroy Iran, how they want to come in, destabilize Iran and everything. They wrote this back in 2009. 2009. And they implementing it right now. The thing about America writes down everything that she wants to do. She writes it down, puts it in a book, puts it online, puts it everywhere, because she knows we're not going to read it. Well, I'm telling you right now, all you got to do, download an app called Brookings Institute. And they got all of America's policy. And every day that they write a policy and put it on the books, it pops up on this app. I got the app on my phone. Every policy, no matter how small, no matter how big, they put it right on there and tell you exactly what they want to do, especially if it comes down to another nation. How they want to destroy 7 nations in 5 years. They already got Libya. They already got Syria. They already got Iraq. You understand? They got Iran on there. They got it's 7 nations. And they just go right down. Check. All of that stuff they did to Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, all of that stuff was planned. They set everything up, made everybody believe that these people was evil. I'm not saying that I'm on their side or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying, but they wrote down that they were going to lie. Because this is what America does. This is what America does. We got to wake up and understand that we are better than America. Although we are in America, we don't have to be of America. Listen, truth is the truth. No matter how you put it, the truth is the truth. Let's go back. Let's go. Let's read some more, right? It says both Pakistan and India control of Muslim majority Kashmir, and both countries claim it is its entirety. Slovakia. And both countries claim it in its entirety. So both countries claim Kashmir as belonging to them. So it's a battle over Kashmir. How did that come about? How do you have a country in between two countries and both countries claim it? Like I said before, I wouldn't be, surprised if America had a hand in that. I wouldn't be surprised if the West had a whole hand in that. We got to start reading. Like I said, our oppressor writes down everything that he does. He puts his glasses on and writes down everything. All we have to do is go in and read. We have to stand back. Stop being so in the forefront of being in America and step back and look at what America is doing. I mean, all we have to do is step back and look what America is doing to us. Look what America is doing to us. You know what? When something happens, like if one of our friends do something to us, we always step back and say, you know what? I'm gonna watch him for a while. We don't do that with America. And it's funny that we don't, because it's in us to do that. But it's something about the witchcraft that America has over us that we don't watch America like we watch a friend or like we watch a family member. We can say, oh, he might be my family, but I don't trust him. That should be the same sentiment with America. We should be more trusting with our family and our own people than we should be with America. It says they have gone to war over Kashmir multiple times. Varadarajan pointed to the previous incident of hostility between the two countries as a guide of what may happen now, but believes an escalation may be harder to defuse than previously. The global terrain is different, he says. You have a White House that may be less inclined to interfere and intervene than it did 5 years ago. Yeah, they're going to be less inclined because of that BRICS situation. And because of that BRICS situation, if they let India get into it and get into a squabble, then other nations may be connected with that BRICS, may get into it, and it may destroy the whole thing, which is America's goal, to destroy the whole thing of BRICS. Because if that thing with BRICS is not defused, then the American dollar can be going down the tube. Now, that doesn't mean that there's going to be a total collapse with America, but America is going to be significantly weakened. Get my words right. Significantly weakened America. Hey, listen, State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce declined to answer a question from a journalist this week on whether the U.S. might try to mediate on Kashmir, as President Trump offered to do during his first term. Listen, they're not going to try to mediate at all because they need this to happen. They need this collapse to happen. They need a couple of those countries to have a falling out and a difference so that BRICS thing doesn't work, so that they can weaken Russia, so they can weaken China. You understand? the thing is they talking about they trying to get China, they trying to get a ceasefire with Russia, make an agreement with Russia so that they can try to get Russia to step away from China. They trying to divide and conquer. This is what America does best. Divides and conquers. Especially, think about it too, right? India has the highest population, if I'm not mistaken. India has the highest population on the continent, and then China, right? Then you have Russia, and I don't know who comes after that, but you got the three biggest nations. Russia has the biggest landmass. India has the biggest population along with China. That's hell in itself versus America. Because with the UK, with France, with Great Britain, that's not enough to handle that right there. Not to mention the nuclear power with all three of those nations. It's nothing else. So America would not allow, even if President Trump thought about it this term, because he thought about it the first term, but even if he thought about it this term, America wouldn't allow him to step in and do anything to defuse the situation, because in not defusing the situation, it works in America's favor. Works in America's favor. Listen, following the attack, India announced the suspension of a decade-old water treaty with Pakistan. It shuttered a major border crossing and ordered the expulsion of military advisors from the Pakistani diplomatic mission in New Delhi. Pakistan announced similar countermeasures and ordered a halt to the trade with India and closed its airspace to Indian aircraft. It also warned that any move by India to hold back water would be considered an act of war. Think about that. Damn. India just said they're going to hold back water, and they said if India holds back water, that's going to be an act of war. So damn, that could be a nuclear war right there. That could be a war, the start of a war right there. Now you got Bangladesh stuck up in there too. And if I'm not mistaken, Bangladesh is right between, what is this over here? This is east, right? This is east, right in the southeast of India. In the southeast of India, Kashmir is right on the border of Pakistan and India, right there, bordered right there. Bangladesh is in there too. Bangladesh has what? What is that? 1.7, or that's 175 million people in Bangladesh. Kashmir has 255 million people. I think it might be reversed. But that's a lot of people in one consolidated area. If there's a nuclear war right there, can you imagine all of those people being affected by nuclear war? America says that's a win-win for us. America says that's a win-win. They can't lose. A win-win. So, like I said, I'm going to start back. It says Pakistan announced similar countermeasures and ordered a halt to trade with India and closed its airspace to Indian aircraft. It also warned that any move by India to hold back water would be considered an act of war, according to a statement from the office of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Now, let me go back up, because it says the following Following the attack, India announced suspension of a decade-old water treaty with Pakistan. Wow. We got to keep an eye on this. This is something to keep an eye on right here. This is something definitely to keep an eye on. You know, this Pakistan-India thing could be the breakout. If that fuse is lit, this could be the breakout right here to really get things on and popping in this World War III. Now, we do understand that World War III is already underway. That Russia and Ukraine, this is World War III. That Israeli and Gaza, that's World War III. Listen, that's the linchpin could be that Pakistan-India thing right there. That could be the thing to bounce everything off. I mean, but it's already started. It's already started. Let's see here. It says a professor of international politics at Jawaharlal, I don't know, a university in New Delhi, noted that it would be difficult for India to sustain a wider conflict simply because it does not have enough air power to do so. There doesn't seem to be any kind of plans for any kind of capacity for any kind of sustained military operations, he said. Even if there's some kind of military operation, it's going to be fairly quick. Of course, the problem is that then Pakistan will respond, and then how that goes, it's difficult to say. Listen, remember, India is still one of the BRICS founding members, which means that India still has Brazil, Russia, China, and South Africa. So even though it may look like India may be limited, it may not be limited. It says water experts said Pakistan's fears about water loss due to suspension of the Indus Water Treaty were overblown because of the area's geography, which includes some of the world's highest mountains. There is no known technology through which you can stop a river the size of the Indus or Jhelum or the Chenab, said Danish Mustafa, professor in critical geography at King's College London, referring to the rivers whose waters Pakistan is entitled to under the treaty. Let's pretend the Indians have gone completely bonkers, right? They pull out $100 billion out of their pocket and start building dams like absolutely crazy people, which they're not going to do that. You understand? But the thought is there. You understand? And if they say that they can drop that treaty, if they can, stop that water, who knows what'll happen? You understand? But listen, the Most High can harden the hearts of any man. The Most High can make anything happen that he wants to happen. You understand? So we looking at situations from a human perspective. You understand? We're not looking at the situation from the Most High's perspective. From the Most High's perspective, he controls the situation. He can soften the heart or he can harden the heart. We saw that happen in Egypt. The Most High hardened Pharaoh's heart. You understand? And Moses came back with those plagues. You understand? And every time he came back with another plague, he hardened his heart until he took the firstborn of every Egyptian in Egypt, thus freeing the children of Israel. You understand? We got to understand that we are not in control. Although we make decisions, the Most High can control a situation. You understand? The Most High can control the situation. Now, I'm going to drop that and I'm going to go to another article. I think we've been on that one long enough. We find how about that right there? How about that right there? I want to I want to make sure I'm grabbing it. That's not it. Where is that? Hold on. Wait a minute. I got it. Look at. Okay, here we go. Listen. This is another thing, right? What we do to ourselves. And I took a look at something called the Asian Pacific. Let me get it right. Asian Pacific. Let me see. APP. Hold on, wait a minute. Hold on. Slocky. Let me get it right. Oh, here we go. How TPP would help small businesses. The TTP stands for the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Trans-Pacific Partnership is the first trade agreement to include a specific chapter dedicated to facilitating trade for small and medium-sized businesses. Currently, TPP partners place high tariffs on U.S. exports than Chinese exports. TPP would level the playing field by eliminating 99% of all goods tariffs between the U.S. and TPP partners. Now, TPP stands for the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And the Trans-Pacific Partnership is mainly those Asian businesses that come and do business with the United States or inside the United States. And we notice that there's an influx of businesses, of Asian businesses within the United States. You understand? Every time you turn around, businesses are flourishing. Asian businesses are flourishing within the United States. Now, a lot of people don't understand, and a lot of people don't know that when Asians come over here and they start a business, they get something which is called tax abatement. Tax abatement is a situation in which, in a nutshell, Asians get funded, they get accounts, and they get a whole brick and mortar business built. And for that first 10 years, they get no taxes taken from them in that first 10 years. And if they transfer that business over within that 10-year period, they get another 10 years where they pay no taxes. This is the reason why when you go into an Asian business, you'll see somebody for a long period of time, and all of a sudden you'll see new people in there. You will see a changeover of people in there. Well, this is part of that Trans-Pacific Partnership. Asians come over here and they are awarded businesses. They get all kinds of stipends and things like that and are put into ready start businesses. So when you come over and you go to some place like a what they call it, a Teppanyani grill or an Asian grill spot where they got all kinds of foods and fishes and all this type of stuff lined up, all kinds of rices, all of this stuff. This is not something that the Asians build up and save up while they over there in their country, then come over here and start a business. Understand this, right? And I want you to think like this. If you're Asian, right? If you're an Asian and you are, let's just say you are a wealthy Asian, Not even a millionaire, maybe a wealthy Asian, and you're doing well above in China. Why would you uproot everything you got to come to America and start your business in America when you're doing well in China? That's just not how it's done. You understand? Those people that come over here with those businesses and start those businesses up, these are people who have nothing. They have nothing but a deal with America. So when they come over here, think about it, right? Me and my rib went into a Asian supply spot where they were selling, nail polish, all of this type of stuff like this. And she was looking for a particular color. When we went in there, this Asian had a store about the size of this room right here, but his store was stacked with boxes with everything that had anything to do with nail polish, nail finish, anything had to do with fingernails, anything had to do with cleaning your hands or anything. He had boxes stacked everywhere full of that. How is that? He didn't save up to get that to come over here to start this business. This business is a startup business that is created for them. I mean, think about this, right? Have you seen any other nation of people over here selling hair care or nail products over here in America? Anywhere? Is there anywhere? Listen, the scriptures tell us what? They are confederate against thee. Listen, what does it mean to be confederate? Confederate means to do anything illegal or illicit against a person or a people. Confederate. To be confederate against someone is to plan to do something illegal or illicit against a person or a people. These people are confederate against us. The scriptures tell us that. All of the Asian hair care, all of the nail spots, everything are owned by Asians. This is not something that they sat over there in Asia, in China, in Hong Kong and decided, hey, maybe we should do this. No, this is not how it was done. It was done in cahoots with the United States. They have an agreement with the United States to do just what's happening right now. Just what we see. Because listen, I can still remember in the 80s, in the early 80s, where the nail spots was owned by Black people. Even into the early 90s. The hair care was done by Black people. It was a sister that was up at the Ricestown Plaza, had all of the hair care products right there at her store up at the plaza. But guess what? The Asians came in and forced her right out. You ask, how did they force her out? They forced her out because they came up there with way lower prices. How do they get way lower prices? They get way lower prices because all of the product they get, they are given that. They don't have to buy anything when they start up. And once they get all of that stuff, they can make the price anything that they want until they force you out of business. Once they force you out of business, then they make their prices their regular price, because it is no underlying balance that they have to have. And especially when they order, they're ordering with 6, 7, or 8 different spots. So they ordering in bulk so much that their prices for them are low. That's afforded to them by America. That's afforded to them by America. America funds them to come in so that they can experience the American reality. We are blown the American dream. The only time we can experience the American dream are when we sleep, or when we wake up, we experience the American nightmare. America is confederate against us. These Asian countries are confederate against us. These East Indians, think about it, right? How does the East Indians get all of the Dunkin' Donuts? We ask this question every week. So you mean to tell me ain't no niggas out there want no Dunkin' Donuts? Because I know I would love a Dunkin' Donuts. No niggas out there don't want no Dunkin' Donuts? So don't no black people want no gas station? How all the Ethiopians and Somalians get all of the gas stations? How is that? How do they get all of the gas stations? How do they get all of the, all of the Dunkin' Donuts? How do they get all of the fish spots? How does the Arabs get all of the chicken spots? Listen, these nations are confederate against us. When are we going to wake up and get some kind of understanding that we have to stand together? Listen, what the scriptures say. Gather yourself together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. None of these nations desire us. And they show us it time after time after time. None of these nations desire us at all. They show us no kind of love, no kind of respect. You understand? And take your dollar and go back and spend it and build their own communities. Listen, the Asians got a community right over there in North Potomac where they control their own school system, their own libraries, their own stores, have their own gated communities, have their own fields and soccer fields, playgrounds, everything, their own communities controlled by them. And all of that comes off of the money that they come into our communities and steal from us. None of those nations give back to the communities that they come steal from. And we sit around and say we respect them for what they do. How can you respect a thief? How can you respect somebody who is confederate against you, who is doing illegal, illicit things against you? How can you respect that? How can we respect that? We are the only nation of people that sit back and let everybody kick over us. But we don't let it happen by our brothers and sisters. We show our brothers and sisters no love. But these other nations, we let them kick us around and do anything that they want to us. We show these other nations love. No matter what these other nations do, no matter what they say about us, we continue to spend our money with them. We show these other nations how much we hate ourselves. And I get it too, right? I understand we don't have a lot in our own neighborhoods that we own. But when are we going to put our foot down? Think about it, right? Even just taking one business in your neighborhood out of business, then coming together to get that business, then coming together and putting someone in that business who is willing to help, you understand, the people in that neighborhood. Listen, I come from a time where all of the corner stores were owned by black people. And I remember Butch and Pearline had 2 stores at each end of the block. These was 2 different families, but they was black families. And any one of those stores you could go into and you could get credit. And once you got credit, whatever you got from that store, that's what you paid back. Nothing more, nothing less. No usury or anything like that. I have never seen the Chinese people do that for. You can't even come up a quarter short on these Asians. You come up a short of quarter, they won't give it to you. I come from an era where if people in the neighborhood heard, and then the people who owned the stores heard you was having a hard time, they looked out for you. They looked out for you. I grew up in a neighborhood where all the corner stores is owned by black people. Every once in a while, you see an Asian and it would be out of place. All of the corner stores were owned by black people. A lot of the brothers and sisters growing up now couldn't even imagine that. Well, just think about how I look at this world right now, that I can't believe what I'm seeing. And the disrespect that we give to the people of our own people when they do own those stores, and then how we take the disrespect from these other nations of people that are raiding our communities. Think about it. I come from that era where everything is backwards to me. But if you don't come from my era, everything's going to look normal to you. These people, and I mean every nation, whether it be the Arabs, the Ethiopians, the Somalians, the Asians, you know, all of these people, the East Indians, all of these people get subsidized when they come over here. They come over here with no money. They are given everything that they need, and they're given a spot in our community, and we raise nothing about it. Got a little tiny store on the corner right across from me. I've been living where I'm living at, I want to say 6 years now. I watched these people get 6 different cars since I've been there. They got Teslas, they got Suburbans, they got all kinds of cars coming up in there. It's only 3 of them that be there. And I asked the young dudes, I said, yo, they got a lot of cars, don't they? Say, yeah, man, they making money, yeah. They making your money. I told them that. I said, listen, they making that money because we keep supporting them. That's why they're going out getting Suburbans. They're going out getting Acuras and Hondas, all the best vehicles. And we sitting there riding around on scooters and bikes, struggling to get back and forth to work. They come and open the store when they want to. See, that's what you can do in the black community. You can't do that in the Presses community because you'll be out of there. They make sure you out of there. But in the black community, you can open your store anytime you want. You can have rats and everything running around in your store. They don't care. They don't care. Because they know you're going to spend your money there anyway. Listen, scriptures tell us they are confederate against us. These people are against us. These people have no love for you. They love your money. That's it. They have no love for you. They have no love for us. That money is what they got love for. They only come to collect. That's it. They not there to make no kind of friends, no nothing like that. All they want is your money. Come and buy. Come and buy. That's it. That's it. When we going to have the love for our own people? When we going to start building our own communities? When we going to start respecting our own people? When we going to start showing that love, that same love that we show to all these other nations? When we going to start showing that love to our people? Somebody tell me, when we going to start showing that love to our own people? Hey, listen, we the greatest people on the face of this earth. Every nation knows it. Think about this, right? When you ever seen Chinese people come into a Chinese store to buy from their own people? When have you ever seen East Indians go into Dunkin' Donuts to buy donuts? When have you seen Arabs come into the chicken spot to buy chicken? You don't even see Africans and Ethiopians and Somalians pulling up to their own gas station. That's because they make their money off of us. Their whole lives are built around us. If we remove ourselves from them, they fall apart. We are the engine. We always say this. We're the engine that makes America go. Without us, America is destroyed. Think about what they're doing to our brothers, the Hispanics, right now. They finding that out right now. Hey, listen, they had an oppressor woman come on the other day and said she voted for Trump. Didn't know that the farm that she worked on, that they was gonna come and scoop up all of her help. Didn't know that. She said 1 month or 2 months without them and we going out of business. Listen. Lord be with you. I hope you do go out of business. Listen. They still holding up $500 million to the black farmers that they owed when the COVID first hit. $500 million to black farmers. All those oppressor farmers, they got their money. They got supported all the way through COVID. They still holding on to the $500 million that they owed the black farmers. Listen, between them wiping out the history and them holding up, listen, they got no love for us. When we going to start showing them no love? When we going to start showing them no love? When we going to start showing them that oppressor feeling? When we going to start pulling up out of them? You understand? When we going to start removing ourselves from them? When we going to start letting them feel the pain? Well, it starts right here. It starts with us coming together, being a family, being one, being on the same accord. You understand? Getting back into these scriptures, understanding who we are. When are we going to do that? Listen, it's the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yohanan. We've been bringing this truth since 1969. And what is that truth? That truth is that the so-called blacks, so-called Hispanics, so-called natives are the true biblical Jews of the Bible, and our oppressors, the devil that the Bible speaks of. And with that, shalom, Israel.